Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time for a match preview for Villa's trip to Nottingham Forest on Monday night. This show is sponsored by BetMate. More on them later, but for now, I'd like to welcome even Neil from the Love of Paul McGrath podcast onto our show. Neil should appear on the screen very, very shortly. How are you, mate? Early visit from Santa for you, Castor Villa girl. Early visit from Father Christmas.
I must say it is the best. It's some of the best gear I've ever gotten to do with Aston Villa. It's been a long time since it's been released or whatever, and I know a lot of people have gotten it, but it fits perfectly. I've been living in this since I got it on Wednesday. Yeah, it's great stuff. Absolutely great stuff.
Lovely stuff. I think we do have an affiliate link to get stuff from the Villa store. I think there was a heavy discount on this week because I picked myself up a coat as well as I'm taking part in the big Villa sleep out at Villa Park tonight. I thought I'd better get myself some kind of coat. I also had to buy a sleeping bag, but yeah, I'll come on to that at the end of the show. Neil, news for Nottingham Forest today then. Not sure it's the best news for Aston Villa Football Club. Steve Cooper signed a new contract until 2025, and I almost feel like this relieves some pressure on him a little bit in that they've got the contract. You presume they're going to stand by him for some time now. So almost, one, it lifts the mood of the fans because they really like Steve Cooper. So I think that changes the atmosphere on Monday night. Absolute vintage Villa timing, as it always is with these things. And two, I think it kind of takes the pressure off him a little bit because I think he would have been going to that game thinking, if I lose, I'm potentially getting the sack here. Whereas I would say at this moment in time, getting a new contract till 2025 today probably negates that from happening.
Yeah, it's the epitome of mixed messaging. 48 hours ago, he was supposed to be out the door. Then they were giving him a stay of execution. Then they were getting rid of his transfer team. And now they give him a new deal until 2025. It's literally like this, their owner wakes up on whatever side of the bed and makes the decisions. Now, I know that's not the case. And I must say, I'm delighted for him as a guy and as a manager because he's a really good coach. And I think it would have been absolutely madness with the investment that the club has made in the actual club on the playing side to just bin a coach like that that's got so much potential and it's actually able to coach players and get players doing things together. Would be madness. But I'm not too sure it's going to have a massive bearing on this game against Aston Villa on Monday night. I think that the club is still under pressure regardless of what happens because of their league position and because of the fact they haven't gelled really on the field together. But that's what you get when you sign half the population of Ireland as your in a transfer window. So I think it's more of a distraction more so than anything else. For the media more so, but I just I don't know, does it have a massive bearing on what happens on the field because I think the pressure is still going to be there anyway.
Do you not think almost they hit their low point on the Monday just gone? Like, realistically, I don't think it gets much lower than losing to your local rivals who are bottom of the league and really, really struggling, getting pumped 4-0. I kind of feel like they've hit their low ebb, and I go on about this Villa timing. It feels
Yeah.
like now they haven't. The only way is up for them, to me.
Well, I suppose the biggest thing is that in that game at Leicester, or against Leicester, should I say, a lot of the players that he played that day were, I think there was only three new signings played that day, and all three of them had played in the Premier League. So you had Kouate, you had Jesse Lingard, and you had somebody whose name escapes me.
One year played up front, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, but he hadn't actually played in the Premier League. I think there was whoever was just playing just behind him, to the right of Jesse Lingard. I can't remember who it was. But what I'm getting at here was when there were so many people that were brought in, we haven't seen the full potential of that team yet. And it's just, I suppose, one of the worrying things are that, yeah, if they start looking at maybe moving out Steve Cook or moving out Scott McKenna and bringing in, one or two of the centre halves that they signed over the course of the summer, and they start to do a great job against Aston Villa. That's more what I'm worried about. I think more so than a massive bounce of result just based on the contract signing themselves. But I suppose we've often thought that we couldn't sink any lower when we've had certain results, and then we've managed to do it. So maybe it's just a Midlands thing, whether it's a West or East Midlands. Maybe it's just a Midlands thing that you can always go lower. I don't know. We'll find out next Monday, I'm sure.
Yeah, Midlands football not in the greatest of states at the moment. All round, if you look at every team, I think most Midlands teams are absolutely having a big struggle at the moment. So Forest have lost 5 in a row, including home defeats to Bournemouth and Fulham. They've also been pumped by Leicester 4-0 on Monday, as I said. Losing 5 in a row. We've done this dance before now. We've done it many times. The Watford game last season always springs to mind. When teams need something, they can play Aston Villa, and Aston Villa's the gift that keeps on giving. But in some ways, the fact that we have managed to solidify, and although I don't like everything that I'm seeing, the fact that we can now defend, at least there is that.
That's exactly it. That's what we have to hang our hat on at the moment. It's a dangerous strategy to hang your hat on having a teak tight defense, but it's look. I suppose it's really something that we can hang our hats on over the last 3 games. It's not been pretty. Like don't no nobody sits here and is saying that Steven Gerrard is painting a Picasso, or well, he probably is painting a Picasso the way it looks so abstract at the moment on the field. But there's nothing like you're not going to win any awards for a style of play at the minute. But one thing that we have seen since the Man City game, and even just before the Man City game, because we were worried we could ship double figures in that game, the way things were going, but we've solidified at the back. Tyrone Mings, once again, myself and yourself have spoken about him countless times on this podcast. We've always been huge fans. I still thought he was nailed on to be that partner to Diego Carlos when Carlos was brought in. I never thought Carlos was going to be his replacement, and we're seeing the true value of Tyrone Mings to come in there now and to anchor that back line. Last day we brought on Bednarek, we Konza, we're going to have Matty Cash back. We're not going to have we're not going to have a selection of left backs. I don't think at the weekend it'll be one, or it'll probably be Ashley Young. I think because
Well, there's no one else.
there's no
Augustinson
one else.
and Luca Dane have been ruled out. So if you're a left-footed left back, you're not fit.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's something that I suppose once again I've got humble pie all over my face there, because I was pretty vocal about the fact of relying on a 37-year-old Ashley Young to be your utility man in the two full back positions, and by God have I been showing up considering how well he's played. So that defense is working. It's working well. It's been working well, though I have to admit it has been working well because we haven't been bombing forward as far on the wings since both Cash and Dini's injuries, and I hope that that's something that Steven Gerrard has seen and is going to curtail Cash and Dini when he comes back, and Ashley Young probably at the weekend, from doing that when we do go out against Nottingham Forest, because we look a more coherent defence. And I think that really we should have enough. And I've always been of the opinion that the three people playing in front of the defence, McGinn, Louise, Ramsey, McGinn, Kamara, Ramsey, whoever you want to play in that three. And obviously I know Kamara is injured, but whoever you play in that three at any given time should have enough creativity to be able to move the ball forward, at least to the likes of Buendia, Coutinho, Bailey, Watkins, Ings, whoever we start up in that front three. So we shouldn't be relying on full backs to double job. We've got too much talent in this team, and I think that, and I hope that we will see that at the weekend.
Yeah, Matty Cash, of course, back from injury, hopefully playing against his old team, El Cashico. It is on Monday night as Matty Cash returns to the City ground. And Ashley Young, I think I need to take a bit of credit for it, actually. For some reason, Friday before the Man City game, I went and got my third shirt from the Villa
You
shop,
did?
and in an absolute panic, I don't know what I was thinking, I got Ashley Young on the back of my shirt. Since then, he's been involved in every game. He's played very well. So I always feel like I don't know why I did that, but I feel like I should take some credit for it now.
I remember you telling me that, and actually, I think
Yeah,
I
you
might
weren't
have
happy.
laughed. I think I laughed at you. I think I just had a little laugh and went, "Oh God," something along those lines. But look, Dan, you've done your magic. Maybe you need,
Renaissance man.
yeah, go in and buy a couple of more shirts with more
Yeah,
players in the back today and see if it works.
yeah. Well, we ain't got many players fit at the moment. To be fair, Neil. I mean, Stephen Gerrard in his press conference talked about potentially going to three at the back and said something that along the lines of we've worked on it a little bit, but I'm not convinced that solves anything. It still doesn't solve the fact that we don't have a proper left back. Really, yes, we've got an array of centre halves at the moment. Chambers is going to be back. We've obviously got Bednarek now. But I'm not sure. I get that we've got injuries, but then suddenly, if Cash or Young were to go out, there's no one to play as a wing back. So I actually don't think going to three at the back actually really solves anything. And you could argue as well, although I actually rate three at the back as a formation, I actually like what it gives teams if you play it in the right way. It might make us even more defensive, which I think is a gripe the Villa fans have got at the moment.
I was a big fan of moving to three at the back when Smith did it last season,
Yeah, I think we
and
had the personnel to do it then, and obviously that got the two up front at the time, which we wanted to do. If we were to go three at the back now, do you think that would point to us going back to two up top with probably Coutinho playing after two strikers?
see, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of that happening in it, and if that does, see, that's the reason that people wanted to bin three at the back in the first place. It wasn't because it was a formation that couldn't work. It was because Watkins and Ings, no matter what we did, if we tied the two of them together, we couldn't get them working, and that was one of the biggest problems. And once again, I don't know. Do we go to two at the top if we do that? Because once again, it still brings in even bigger equations with regards to Buendia sees less time on the field. Does it mean that Coutinho has to start behind the two guys there? I don't know.
Central midfield as well. Obviously we played it the way we played it under Smith. It was a 5-3-2, wasn't it?
Yeah,
This would be more of a 5-2-1-2. I
yeah.
guess then you're taking out. I can't see him taking out Ramsey or McGinn, so I presume that means Louise comes out. But then I also think if you're playing with two central midfielders with a back three, I'm not sure Ramsey and McGinn works there.
Mm.
So that you've still got problems, I would say, with integrating people, even if you go three at the back. I think Stephen Gerrard said he prefers four at the back. He said that himself. I almost feel like it's a bit of a pointless shift, really.
Who's to say he doesn't play McGinn or Ramsey as a wing back? I know it popped up on the screen there, and I don't know whether it was joking or what was the story, but like he's pushed them
But they're
into
not
those
wing backs, are they?
No, no, they're not. But
I'd be thinking I'd be thinking he's lost the plot if he was doing something like that.
but when our fullbacks were going so far forward, they were the guys who were trying to mind the house, albeit they were inexperienced at doing it, and they didn't work in whatsoever. It just didn't work, and it's a very big Liverpool thing, whereby when Trent Alexander-Arnold goes forward, they've had over the last few years, they've had the likes of Henderson or even Milner when he started in that central midfield position, being able to fit in there and to create that buffer zone. With teams who've
Wijnaldum was
kind of
very good at that.
he was, yeah, and teams have
Very good.
figured that out now, and that's one of the reasons why Liverpool can't do that to as great fervor. But yeah, it would be very much a last straw kind of a thing of putting McGinn over there at left wing back, or even maybe playing him as kind of a wide midfielder. But yeah, it's like three in the back works when we've got a full complement of players. But at this moment in time, I think it would just stretch us, and one injury means we have to change formation, and then means that we could be rocky in game. So for me, I'm not sure he does play it, but I'm very open to playing three at the back, and I think we've got some. We've got specifically when Diego Carlos comes back. I think if Benderak was to be made a full time fixture within the club, we would have four very, very good centre halves there to be able to rotate in the back three, and I think it would be really exciting.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think we will see it, but it's obviously something he
Yeah,
hinted at in his press
I
conference,
agree.
so we have to talk about it. He also hinted that Leon Bailey may not play. I mean, I think he was pretty erratic against Leeds, if we're being perfectly honest. But we spoke loads of times before about him getting no rhythm. He plays 90 against City, does well, and then probably plays around an hour the next two games. And we've talked about getting that consistency in the two that play off the striker. And Ollie Watkins is obviously the main man. He's the one that plays up front every week. Come under for some stick this week because he did miss chances against Leeds. I think some of the sticks potentially a little bit unfair. I don't know, me and you feel a little bit differently about some of those chances. I didn't think there was anything that was massive, like a banker, maybe other than the rebound, which obviously he went at it in a strange way. Thought Melier just did well. Yes, he possibly could have lifted it, but it's easy to say, under the pressure of being on a football pitch, it's easy to say, oh, he should have lifted it. Things happen. He had to take the shots quite quickly by the way that Melier came out, I thought. So he's come in for some stick, but got to get behind him because he's the number one striker at Villa. He's going to play every week. Ollie Watkins, I don't think Ings can play as a lone striker. So he needs some goals, Ollie Watkins. But up until that Leeds game, I don't recall him missing too many chances, and I thought he'd led the line pretty well.
I think the frustration comes from the point that it's something that we've been speaking about since Ali Watkins came into the club. Was his one on ones are erratic, and finishing can be erratic at one on ones. And I think it's just a gradual progression that we want to see with all players within this club. It's not too long ago that Ali Watkins was. I won't say he was a fixture within the English squad, but he was always being called up to the English squad, and he was getting time off the bench, and now he's an afterthought coming up to Qatar, and for me,
Oh, he's
that's
got no
the
chance of the World Cup, I don't
not
think,
a,
unless we were suddenly to get obliterated with forward injuries. He's
no,
not going to the World Cup.
not a hope, and that's because of lack of form, and that's the only reason that's there, because he had his foot in the door and he had his foot on the plane, and lack of form has led to him no longer being in contention, and that's the frustrating part for me, is because the guy has lots and lots of talent. He's taken to Premier League football like a duck to water in his first season. Second season didn't really kick on. Okay, albeit there was a managerial change, but he's had a full off season, and there was this big talk about, and this is why sometimes I wish that the PR machine wouldn't run as heavy as it does, because there was this big talk about Ollie Watkins as a finishing coach. He's a finishing coach. He's been working with a finishing coach all off season, and he's raring to go, and everything is working, and then it doesn't work. And I think that's just where the frustration comes from. So I think personally, I was annoyed after the game because I thought that we should have won it. And when you look at why we should have won it, was because we created more chances. And then I suppose it just the blame falls on the person who didn't put those chances away. I don't like. I then went away and I looked at the statistics for Watkins and Ings over the same period of time since Ings has been with the club, and they're more or less bang on similar. You know, I think they score a goal with every 0.13 shots and stuff like that. Like, so it's they're eerily similar in the amount of minutes that they've played, or sorry, their goals per minute and so on like that. So I think it's really a system issue. But we can, yes, maybe point the finger at Watkins in the last game because he did get chances. But there are a lot of other games where he doesn't get any chances at all. And I think that I think Watkins is a very good player, but I would just like to see maybe that small bit more of a progression. And that goes for about four other players in the team as well that are still playing at 2020 levels, maybe second half of the season 2020 levels, when we would have hoped to see them kick on. And I think that's just where some of the frustration comes among the fan base. But as you say, Ollie Watkins for me is our number one striker within the club. I hope he hits double figures again for Aston Villa 3 years in a row. That would be fantastic for him. It would be good for the club. It would mean he starts scoring goals. But I do think the club does need to look at attacking at the attacking positions probably as soon as January, and they need to get something sorted out because I'm not quite sure this system lends itself to the players that we have. And I did think we needed a striker in the off season, and I did say Luis Suarez. I would have, held my nose and taken him because he's just an absolutely wicked finisher, still is, and he's after the MLS at the moment. But I do think we need somebody to complement what we have there already, and maybe someone a small bit different. But yeah, I'm back on the Ollie Watkins bus again, and I hope he scores a hatful against Forest next Monday.
I just think who would you go and get? That's the I mean, this isn't
Mm.
a transfer show,
Well,
but it's
that's
so difficult to buy a striker that guarantees goals. You know, we're not going to go and get Haaland. Obviously, it's so difficult to buy that striker that absolutely guarantees goals. Look at Darwin Nunez at Liverpool. Okay, he's missed a few games because of his stupid headbutt, and he's not played really a run of games since he's joined. But big name striker, big money striker come in. Finding it difficult. I spoke this week about how difficult he finds it. If you look at Watkins' goal record over the last 2 and a bit seasons, certainly English strikers wise, it's up there. There's
he's
not
up
not
there.
many
He is.
people, not many players have scored more goals than Ollie Watkins. So it's a difficult one. He does suffer with a lack of confidence. Sometimes that would be my one gripe with him. I think he gets too down when he misses chances rather than thinking let's go again. I think he dwells on things a little bit too much. That's what I can see by his body language. I mean, I'm absolutely no body language expert at all. That's just my own opinion from what I see. But there's something there with him when we were thriving and Dean Smith playing really good football. It was 2 years ago. He was scoring that hat
Mm.
trick against Liverpool. You know, ran riot against Liverpool when Liverpool Van Dijk was playing. You know, when Van Dijk was on top of his game as well. You know, there's an effective Premier League player there. There's a Premier League goal scorer there in Ollie Watkins. I think he just lacks that little bit of self belief. And the club can't do wrong from right really at the moment with anything. But they post that video before the Leeds game of all the players banging them in training, all the finishing. Then of course we go away to Leeds, draw 0-0, create the most chances we have done all season, and don't score. Yeah, things like that. That probably doesn't help either because it just gets the fans' backs up because they're watching the players bang the ball in training, and then they can't hit the
Mm.
side of a Renault Espace, as the guy would say, Mike Bassett, England manager, during the game. You know, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because the club can't, they want to put content out, but they can't do
Yeah,
wrong from right at the moment.
yeah. And look, I think it's very much a case of um, Coutinho isn't doing enough. Bailey's been hit or miss. When Bailey gets the ball at his feet in around the box, he can cut in the
Do you not
top
think
corner
that
with his left
constant
foot.
changing of the players off Watkins, it probably
Correct.
doesn't help Watkins either?
Doesn't help them, doesn't help Watkins, but we don't have time to work. We don't have time to find out what works in season. And I think that there should, like, I don't know, it's going to be a mystery for the rest of the season as to who's going to be that key that's going to unlock a defense. And I'm not talking about a defense like a Man City's defense or a Chelsea's defense or an Arsenal defense. I'm talking about unlocking a Leeds defense, a Forest defense, and I know Brighton are up at the top of the league and so on. But, like, Brentford even coming up soon. who's going to unlock those defenses? And that's the worrying thing, I think, as well, because we have a striker, we have strikers there, specifically Ings. I think Ings needs service, and Watkins is proving that he needs perfect service as well. So if we don't have people that can provide him with that service, and I know people are probably going to say, "Maybe Buendia is that guy," and yes, he very well may be. But this is the thing. This causes the frustration. Play him, Steven Gerrard, if he is, because we can't keep trying the same thing over and over again. And I think that there probably will be. Well, we will need to see a shift and change at that position on Monday, because Leon Bailey is likely to be out. And to be honest with you, I'd be bloody blown away if Buendia and Coutinho didn't start behind Watkins, because I think it's just about time
Well, if we play
that
three at
that
the back,
happens
they
now.
won't.
Well, I don't think
Well,
we play
I
three at
suppose
the
they
back
could.
though.
Actually, they could, couldn't they? They could if we played three. I just don't know. Part of this is just purely devil's advocate on my part with Buendia. I'm going to blame my dad, because my dad said this to me in one of the games. Maybe I always think Buendia coming off the bench is a useful tactic in some ways, because he can come on and change a game. And with these 5 subs now, I said on Twitter last week, every 60 minutes, every game, the Villa fans are singing the Emi Buendia chant, wanting him to come on. And then within 5 minutes, he's usually on the pitch. It's almost as if he's the 12th man coming off the bench to try and change the game and swing the game in the favour. That's not purely devil's advocate for me, as I say. But is that not a valid point in some
It
ways?
is. Yeah, it is. It is. And that's maybe what Steven Gerrard does. Maybe plays Ramsey higher further forward like he did against Man City, brings Leo Dendoncker into midfield, and you have a midfield of McGinn, Luis Dendoncker, and we go a bit more tighter in midfield, and play Ramsey further forward.
Let's tighten up even more now. That's what we need. Let's tighten up even more.
We
Can't
just don't have
surely
the
not.
players,
I like Ramsey on the left. To be honest, I'm all for that. I like Ramsey on the left. I think he's very good there. I actually think long term he may end up there.
maybe. Maybe it's
Mm.
it's going to be an interesting one, because it's going to be interesting just because of the players that are out, and we don't know, and obviously the curveball that he threw in about 3 at the back. I'd literally be stunned into
Unless that's
silence if
mind
there was 3
games.
at the back. I'd be
Could be
stunned
mind
into
games.
silence if he played 3 at the back. It to me it would be so out of character for him to do that at this moment in time. But look, as we say, Monday will tell all.
Yeah. Just final point then before we get onto the betmate, sorry, team. So if you're gonna have a sponsor, you've got to be able to say the name.
Yeah.
Before we get onto the betmate section, just wanted to say about Philip Coutinho. I can't remember if I said this on Monday's show with Omar or not, but I watched Leicester against Forest on Monday, and Leicester have been poor, really, really bad all season. Probably, I mean, to be fair, going forward, actually, they have been okay, because Maddison's got a lot of goal involvement. But you're watching Maddison against them and seeing him absolutely run the show, and I just sat there thinking, we've got Philip Coutinho. But I bet I'm sat there on Monday, the next Monday, watching Villa play Forest, and I'm not seeing Philip Coutinho running the show. That's like, I know it's a simplistic way of looking at things. It's Philip Coutinho. Why isn't that going to happen for us on Monday? Why can't he run a game like that? Is it purely down to the way Villa are playing? Is it obviously it's a little bit down to him as well? But Maddison's a phenomenal footballer. I really, really like James Maddison. I like the way he talks as well. But Philip Coutinho is a better footballer than James Maddison. Why am I not going to see Philip Coutinho run a game on Monday?
There's the question. Then, if we were able to answer that question, we wouldn't be worried about where
Maddison's
we are in
playing
the
bloody
league.
out of position as well. He's playing on the right hand side. That is no way his best position, but he's making it work.
Exactly, and Philippe Coutinho is, I don't think he's a busted flush by any means. You
Nor do
can
I.
still see he's got there's massive flashes in there. He's only 30 years of age. There are massive flashes in there, but this is going to be, it's going to be the defining question of Steven Gerrard's tenure. Ever since he brought him in the door, he was just going to be the overarching focal point, I suppose, of an awful lot of things that Steven Gerrard was going to do over the next 12 to 18 months. Now we've signed him on a full-time contract. We're how many games? 9 games into the league so far. We've not seen we've not seen anywhere near a complete performance from
Feels
Coutinho.
like 900 games.
It feels, yeah. So like arguably Coutinho's last good game was City last day of the season last year, and he was very good that day. I'd take another performance like that from him. But my big problem there is that this Aston Villa team seems to rise to challenges, as in it rises to better teams like it did against Man City this year. But we haven't seen them being able to control a game or play a game, and that underdog mentality gets very, very stale very, very soon. specifically in the Premier League, and when you have to go to teams and you have to exert your dominance on them. And if we are going to do that, Philippe Coutinho is going to need to bring his special boots, because he's like it's good that we have him in the team, but it's only good if we have him on the team if he's doing what he's been advertised to do. If he's not doing what he's been advertised to do, I don't think that we can have somebody that can have that spectre of always being in the team there, because that's what loses managers their jobs, that's what loses fans interest, and that's what loses teams positions in the Premier League, to be honest with you. So it's just like everybody else. He has to bring his A game, he's to up it. So do 4 or 5 other players within the team, and Steven Gerrard is the man tasked with finding that out, and hopefully Monday helps us to do that. And it's weird talking about that when we're on a 3-game unbeaten streak, but
I think most people would have been quite pleased before those 3 games with 5 points. I'd have probably accepted that, and I might be mediocre and small time of me. But for the 3 games we had, because obviously that would have meant that we'd got at least a point against Manchester City.
Yeah,
I probably would have taken 5 points from that game. However, they came, and I guess that's what Steven Gerrard will be saying. I've tightened it up. 5 points isn't a bad return from those 3 games. Man City at home, hardest game you can have at home, really, at the moment. Southampton at home. Yes, it wasn't pretty, but we won. And then I guess because of the circumstances of the Leeds point. But before that game, I think before that run of 3 fixtures, most Villa fans probably would have taken a point there, and 5 points from those 3 games isn't a bad return. But it's now, this one's huge for Villa, because if they don't win it, I think the manager's coming under huge pressure if he's not under pressure already. And I think there'll be serious questions asked of the players as well, because they've got to start doing something. It doesn't all come down to the manager. Do I think everything Steven Gerrard's done is perfect? Far from it. But the players have to take some responsibility as well. And you've got to see a bit more. We've started to see the grit and the defensive side, and McGinn spoke about some of the way they were at the start of the season with that regard wasn't good enough. But there's too much attacking talent there for them. They've got to start making stuff happen. Something has to happen. And they shouldn't be sent out there off the cuff like we spoke about on Monday. But the players, they've got to start putting the ball in the back of the net. They've got to start creating chances. They've got to start looking like creative attacking footballers, because there's some good players at this football club. And, it's a collective thing. Everyone's got to start taking responsibility.
Yep, absolutely. And if we can do it with the likes of Trezeguet, El Ghazi, Ross Barkley, and that's not demeaning those as players, but I think to a player, the likes of Bailey, Buendia, and Coutinho have come in with more fanfare. We need to be able to find
We just
that.
always had Jack Grealish at that point with them, though, didn't we? That was the difference.
I was tiptoeing around it, and I didn't want to say it.
Club is still recovering from that departure,
and so is he. He's still recovering from the departure as well.
He's there now. I think he's coming. I think he's coming from Manchester City. He's been very good their last 3 games, Jack. I think this is the start of him absolutely firing for Manchester City. But anyway, let's talk about the BetMate app then. So there's a pot that you can join pre-game and try and beat myself and Chris Dolan and win yourself some money. But please gamble responsibly. It's small stakes on this betting app, and it doesn't work in the same ways as just simply making a bet. You're basically picking a 7-a-side team, and whoever gets the most points finishes top of the league, and you'll win yourself some money. So there's a QR code on the screen right now. Join that, and take a photo of that, whatever it is you do. I'm not the most technically advanced here. Do that, and you'll be able to join our pot. Adam, my producer, is currently limping through the getting into the pot stage. I can't even see the screen that well. Come on, Adam. You're a grown man. Look at this. Kate's getting it wrong. I knew this was going to be a disaster. Didn't I say no? Here we go. We're in. Right, I'm trying to make my screen bigger and absolutely failing at that. So as much as I'm having a go at Adam, I'm failing at basics myself. There we go. I think I'm there. So Adam is now joining the league, signed in with my login. Don't give your passwords out to people, though, kids. That's something that you should never do. I trust Adam, so I've done it on this occasion. So there's a Nottingham Forest v Villa pot, £3 per entry, and I'm going to pick my screen now. So in goal, please, Adam, I'd have Dean Henderson, because he's bound to have an absolute worlder. So he's gone to the defence first, of course he has. There he is. Dean Henderson in goal, please, Adam. And then I'm going to have Matty Cash as my first pick in defence, please. Of course, he'll be down the bottom because he didn't play last week.
Just for everyone, Dan, could you go in here and pick 7 Aston Villa players if you so wish?
I think 5 is the max you can have from one team, and I will go Nico Williams as my second defender, please, Adam. There he is. I'm going to go McGinn in midfield. I remember him scoring in the Championship against Forest at the City Ground from range, due a goal, John McGinn. So I'm going to go with him. and I will pair him. I was going to have to be another Villa player. Don't think Forest have got the most progressive central midfield in the
Go for
world.
Coutinho. Go for Coutinho.
Go on then. We'll go for Coutinho. Let's curse McGinn and Coutinho going into the game on Monday now. Let's do that. Up front, I'll have Ollie Watkins, who I think I've picked every single week so far, and he's returned 1 goal for me. So, yeah, again, putting the curses on him. And you just never know who's going to play up front for Forest at the moment. To be honest, if I was Forest, I'd pick Emmanuel Dennis. He's done some damage against Villa over the last couple of games for Watford. But I'll go with Brennan Johnson because I'm pretty sure so he's picked. No, sorry, that's my fault. That is my fault. I'll go for Brennan Johnson because he's the only one I'm pretty certain will definitely start out of the Forest front three. Then on my bench, I guess I have to have Martinez as my sub goalkeeper. Although I suppose I could have the Forest backup goalkeeper. I will have Mings. No, actually, I won't have Mings. I'll have a Forest defender. Give me Loader. He played the other night. Yeah, Lodi plays. Renan Loader. Why did he get 4 points in the last game? They shipped 4 goals. And then Jacob Ramsey. And go on, put Dennis on the bench as well, because he's likely to see some football at some point in that game and does have a good record against Villa. So there's my team. You can join the pot too. The instructions will be in the YouTube description as well if you do want to join and take on Dolan and myself and try and beat us. I imagine you won't struggle at all. As you can see, I think I've won £4 this season. Excellent work from myself there. But yeah, low stakes gambling, but as ever, please gamble responsibly. Only gamble what you can afford, and it's a bit of fun. Don't take it too seriously and don't go mad. Let's finish then, Neil, on predictions. What are you going for the Monday night football then? Aston Villa at the City Ground playing Nottingham Forest.
Aston Villa 2 goals. Norwich. Nottingham Forest 0 goals. 2-0 Villa.
Villa 2-0.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do now. I just don't know what to do. I'll go. Oh no, we're not going to score 3, are we? I'll go 2-1 to Villa. But it's one of those ones again where everything is pointing to the fact that Forest haven't won for ages. And everything tells me in my Villa past, that's bad news for Villa.
I remember
we as fans know it.
Villa and Forest in the Championship were always, am I right in saying, they're always goal fests?
We won 3-1 there, definitely the one. Yeah, I remember us losing and getting Grealish getting
4-4 or
off.
something at one stage.
There was 5-5 at Villa Park.
5-5. That was it.
Matty Cash played in I think he played in midfield for Forest that day and scored. Yeah, I think he scored against us at Villa Park. But yeah, I worry about every game at the moment, but at least we're solid defensively. That's the only thing I can say at the moment. Surely the goal is going to start to go in at some point. Neil, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for joining me, and thanks to those that have joined us on a Friday afternoon live. It's always appreciated, and hopefully a load of people will come and catch up on this show as well, as we have got until Monday to wait for Aston Villa to play. Thanks ever so much for watching. Thanks to Adam as well for limping through that BetMate app section. Enjoy your weekend. At least your weekend will be okay, whatever happens, and then on Monday it could be your Monday ruined, but up the Villa.